All right, welcome back. Let's get comfy.
Yeah.
Because tonight we're diving into something, near and dear to many of your hearts.
Oh, yeah.
Open world RPGs.
I love it.
It's like we're all huddled around a virtual campfire.
I like that.
Sharing stories and getting a little heated about what we love and don't love about this genre.
Mm-hmm.
You sent us some fascinating articles and forum discussions.
Oh, yeah.
And let me tell you, things got spicy.
Really?
Some folks are out there praising the latest combat mechanics, while others are calling enemies cardboard cutouts.
Ooh, ouch.
Ouch.
That's tough.
Right, yeah. What's interesting is that this passion, these strong reactions, they're actually a hallmark of the genre, open world RPGs. They invite us to invest so much, our time, our emotions, our imagination. So when something feels off, it's personal.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
And speaking of personal, our main source of campfire fuel tonight is the recently released Avowed.
Nice. For those who haven't had the chance to play it, Avowed dropped on February 18th for Windows and Xbox Series XS.
Right.
It's developed by Obsidian Entertainment.
Of course.
The minds behind Pillars of Eternity and The Outer Worlds.
That's right.
So, already high expectations.
No, huge expectations.
And it's set in the Pillars of Eternity universe.
Oh, wow.
Specifically, the Living Lands region.
Okay.
So, we've got this rich, established world to explore.
Yeah.
But the question is, does it live up to the hype?
Does it? Well, looking at it from a developer's perspective, Obsidian is known for these intricate worlds and narratives. Pillars of Eternity had this depth that really pulled you in. So Avowed is a fascinating case study.
Yeah.
Because it's almost testing the waters.
Right.
Can a studio known for these tighter RPG experiences successfully translate that magic to the vastness of a truly open world?
Okay.
That's the question.
So we've got the studio pedigree. We've got this beloved world.
Yeah.
But as you hinted at earlier,
Yeah.
the reactions are mixed.
Yeah.
In fact, the phrase that keeps popping up in these forum discussions is mixed bag.
I can see that.
Players seem to be torn about a lot of things.
Yeah.
Starting with the combat.
Okay.
Some are absolutely raving about how smooth the mechanics are.
Right.
Especially compared to older games like Skyrim.
Yeah.
Which, let's face it,
Yeah.
can feel a bit clunky at times. They're loving the variety of weapons.
Okay.
The spell casting, the overall fluidity.
Right, and that fluidity is crucial.
Yeah.
In an action RPG, you're constantly engaging with the world. And combat is this central loop.
Yeah.
If the mechanics are clunky, unresponsive,
Yeah.
it rips you out of the experience Avowed. Avowed seems to have nailed that sense of responsiveness.
But, here comes the but. But.
Right.
Yeah.
Because the other side of that coin is that some players are finding the combat oddly.
Weightless.
Oh, really?
Like, visually it looks impressive.
Okay.
But it lacks that visceral oomph.
Okay.
One player even compared it to fighting cardboard cutouts.
Wow.
Which is a pretty harsh image.
Yeah, that's rough.
But you can kind of see where they're coming from.
Yeah, I can see that.
Right.
And that gets to a deeper issue that we see in open world games sometimes. That disconnect between visual spectacle and actual feedback.
Right.
Think about it. You're swinging a massive battle axe. You see the animation connect.
Yeah.
But the enemy barely reacts.
Right.
There's no satisfying sound, no sense of impact. It's all flash and no substance.
It's like that moment in an action movie when a punch connects.
Yeah.
And you just know it's going to bruise.
Right.
But then there's no sound effect and it just looks fake.
Right.
You're pulled right out of the moment.
Yeah.
So is this lack of impactful feedback a common trend in open world RPGs? Or is Avowed an outlier?
Unfortunately, it's not unique to Avowed.
Okay.
The pressure to create visually stunning experiences, especially as technology advances, can sometimes overshadow the subtler, but arguably more important elements of game design. Impactful combat is about so much more than just the animation. It's about sound design, controller feedback, enemy reaction, all working in concert to create that sense of weight and consequence.
So it's like a recipe, right?
I like that.
You need all the right ingredients in the right proportions to make a truly satisfying dish.
That's right.
And if you overseason it with visual spectacle, the whole thing falls apart.
The whole thing crumbles.
Now let's move on to another ingredient, in our open world RPG, Stu.
Okay.
The storytelling.
Oh, yeah.
This is where things get really interesting.
Ooh.
Because Avowed is being praised for its main storyline.
Okay.
People are saying the writing is sharp.
Okay.
The dialogue engaging, and the overall narrative captivating.
Right.
They're invested in the main quest.
Right.
They care about what's happening.
Which aligns perfectly with what we know about Obsidian, right?
Right.
They've built their reputation on strong narratives and well-developed characters.
Right.
So it makes sense that they'd knock the main story out of the park.
Yeah. But of course, there's a but.
There's a but.
Because while the main narrative is getting rave reviews, the side content, the side quests, the random encounters, the non-essential dialogue, that's where things seem to be falling flat for some players.
Oh, okay.
They're saying it's repetitive, lacking the same level of polish, and frankly, kind of forgettable.
Oh, wow.
So is it just too much to ask for a game this massive to have consistently good writing across the board?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's a challenge that plagues many open-world RPGs.
Yeah.
You have this sprawling map to fill with content.
Right.
But how do you ensure that every little nook and cranny feels as compelling as the main story?
It's like writing a novel versus a collection of short stories.
I like it.
You can pour your heart and soul into that central narrative.
Right.
But sometimes those smaller pieces might not have the same level of depth.
Exactly. And it's a balancing act. You want to give players the freedom to explore, to discover, but you also don't want to overwhelm them with pointless fetch quests or dialogue that feels phoned in.
So the question becomes, what makes a side quest truly memorable?
Yeah.
What elevates it from a simple chore to something that sticks with you long after you've completed it?
Well, for me, it's about those little touches that make it feel like more than just a box to check off. Maybe it introduces you to a quirky character you wouldn't have met otherwise.
Right.
Maybe it reveals a piece of lore that adds depth to the world.
Yeah.
Or maybe it presents you with a choice that actually has consequences.
Making you feel like your actions truly matter.
All right, well, let's hold on to that thought for a second.
Okay.
Because before we get too deep into quest design,
Yeah.
I want to talk about another element that's sparking some heated debate around the virtual campfire.
Okay.
Companions.
Ooh, companions.
Avowed features a cast of characters who can join you on your adventures.
Right.
Like Kai, who seems to be a fan favorite.
Oh, I've heard of him.
But even here, there's a divide in opinions.
Really?
Companions are such a crucial part of the RPG experience, right?
Absolutely.
They're the people you journey with, fight alongside,
That's right.
confide in. They can either elevate the game to a whole other level or become these annoying Tagalongs you wish you could ditch at the nearest tavern.
Oh, I hate that.
And in the case of Avowed, it seems like some players are feeling that annoying Tagalong vibe.
Oh, no.
At least with some of the companions.
Okay.
The criticism that keeps popping up is that they feel generic.
They lack personality.
Huh.
They become instant best friends without any real sense of trust building.
Oh, wow.
And the voice acting doesn't always help.
Yeah.
Some players are saying it sounds like the actors are phoning it in.
Oh, no.
They're reading lines off a page without really understanding the characters they're portraying.
That lack of authenticity can be a killer.
Yeah.
Especially in a genre where you're supposed to be forming these deep bonds with your companions.
Right.
Like, imagine going on a road trip with someone who only speaks in cliches and never really opens up about themselves.
Right.
You'd probably want to kick them out of the car before you even reach the first rest stop.
Right.
Yeah.
So what's the secret sauce here? What makes a companion truly memorable?
Yeah. What separates the Kais of the world?
Right.
The ones that players actually connect with.
Yeah.
From those forgettable NPCs that just fade into the background noise.
Yeah. What is it?
Well, first and foremost, a great companion needs a compelling backstory. They need to feel like a fully realized individual with their own history, motivations, and maybe even some baggage.
Yeah.
You want to understand why they're joining you on this adventure, what they hope to gain, and what secrets they might be hiding.
So it's about more than just being helpful in combat or offering witty banter. It's about having depth, having layers that the player can peel back over time.
Exactly. And a truly memorable companion should also have a dynamic relationship with the player character.
Right.
That relationship should evolve over the course of the game with ups and downs, disagreements, and moments of genuine connection.
Yeah.
Think about the companions you remember most fondly from other RPGs. They probably challenged you, surprised you, and maybe even made you question your own choices.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we've got the backstory. We've got the dynamic relationship.
Yep.
What else?
What else?
What are those little details that really bring a companion to life?
Voice acting is huge.
Oh, yeah.
A great voice actor can breathe life into even the most two-dimensional character, giving them nuance, personality, and making their lines feel genuine.
Right.
And then there are those smaller touches.
Yeah.
Their unique animations, their reactions to different situations, their personal quests that reveal more about their past and their motivations.
Right.
All of these things work together
to
create a companion who feels like a real person, not just a scripted AI following you around.
So it's about creating the illusion of life, right?
Yeah.
Making the player believe that this character exists beyond the confines of the game world.
Exactly.
Now, before we get too lost in the world of character creation, let's talk about something a little less glamorous.
Okay.
But equally important.
Okay.
Immersion breakers.
Immersion breakers.
These are those moments in a game where the illusion of reality is shattered. Yep. And you're suddenly reminded that you're just playing a game.
Ugh, I hate that.
And unfortunately, it seems like Avowed has its fair share of these immersion breakers, are like little cracks in the fourth wall.
Yeah.
And once you see one, it's hard to unsee it.
I know, it's so true.
It can really pull you out of the experience.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And in Avowed, one of the most common complaints seems to revolve around the lack of consequences for player actions.
Okay.
For example, one player shared an anecdote about stealing from a shop and facing absolutely zero repercussions.
Really?
It's like the game is saying, sure, go ahead, steal everything.
Oh my God.
Never mind.
That's so unrealistic.
Right.
Yeah.
That lack of consequence can be a real immersion killer.
Yeah.
Because it undermines the believability of the world.
Right.
If your actions have no real impact, it makes the whole thing feel artificial.
Yeah, like you're on rails.
It's like being a kid playing pretend. You can run around, make believe you're a powerful wizard, but there's no real sense of danger or consequence.
That's right.
And that brings us to a larger question.
Right.
Does a certain level of tough love actually enhance the open world RPG experience?
That's interesting.
Does having real consequences for your actions make the world feel more authentic?
Yeah.
More immersive?
I like that.
What do you think?
I think so, yeah. I think you need to feel like your choices matter, like there are stakes. Otherwise, what's the point?
Right.
You know?
It's just like a theme park.
It's a theme park, exactly. You're just on the ride.
Yeah, and there's nothing.
There's no agents.
No agency, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll pick up on that thought next time.
Sounds good.
Because we're out of time for this part of the deep dive.
Oh, okay.
But don't go anywhere.
Yeah.
Because we've got lots more to discuss.
Oh, I'm excited. Can't wait.
We'll be right back.
All right. It's a fascinating question, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because on one hand, you want that freedom to explore, to experiment, to maybe even be a little bit of a scoundrel in the game world.
Yeah, why not?
But if there are no stakes, no sense that your choices actually matter, it can cheapen the whole experience.
Right. It's like the difference between playing a game with cheat codes and playing it straight.
Exactly.
Sure, it can be fun to mess around with unlimited power for a while.
Yeah.
But eventually it loses its appeal.
Yeah, you get bored.
You need those challenges, those moments of tension and consequence to make the victories feel truly earned.
Exactly. It's about finding that sweet spot between freedom and consequence. Think about a game like Red Dead Redemption 2, for example.
Okay.
You can rob a bank, sure, but there will be a posse on your tail.
Yeah.
And the townsfolk might not be so friendly anymore. Your actions have ripple effects, and that makes the world feel dynamic and reactive. Yeah, I like that. And that brings us to another point of contention in Avowed. Okay. Those pesky technical glitches. Apparently, the PC release has been plagued with bugs.
Really?
Crashes. Fatal errors.
Oh, no.
The whole shebang.
Wow.
People are venting their frustrations in the forums.
I bet.
Talking about having to restart constantly, losing progress, and just generally feeling like the game wasn't quite ready for prime time. It's so frustrating when that happens.
Yeah. This is unfortunately a reality of PC game development these days.
Yeah.
The sheer variety of hardware and software configurations out there makes it incredibly challenging to create a game that runs smoothly on everyone's machine.
Yeah, that's a good point.
It's like trying to design a car that can handle every type of road, from smooth highways to bumpy back roads.
Without breaking down.
So it's not necessarily a sign of incompetence on the developer's part?
Not necessarily, no.
It's more about the inherent complexities of PC gaming.
Right.
You think?
I think so.
Okay.
And while it's frustrating for players who are experiencing these issues, it's important to remember that developers are often working tirelessly to patch those bugs and improve performance post-release. They want their game to be enjoyed by everyone, but it's a complex process.
Fingers crossed for those patches, right?
Yeah.
Because nothing pulls you out of the immersive experience faster than a sudden crash to desktop.
That's the worst.
Speaking of things that can disrupt immersion, let's talk about a topic that often sparks debate.
All right.
Both inside and outside the gaming world.
Okay.
Politics.
Politics.
Right. Some players have expressed concern about what they perceive as political messaging in Avowed, feeling like the developers' personal views are being pushed onto the players.
Oh, wow.
What do you think about that?
This raises a fascinating question.
Yeah.
How do developers navigate that fine line between expressing their own creativity and potentially alienating players who might not share those same views?
It's a tricky balance, right?
It is.
Because on one hand, games are art.
Right.
And artists often use their work to explore social issues, to comment on current events, to challenge the status quo.
To push the envelope.
But on the other hand, you don't want to alienate your audience or make them feel like they're being preached to.
You don't want to hit them over the head with it.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
The key, in my opinion, is subtlety and nuance.
Okay.
If a game feels like it's hitting you over the head with a particular message, it can feel heavy-handed and preachy.
Right.
But if those themes are woven organically into the narrative, the characters, the world building, it can lead to a much more engaging and thought-provoking experience.
So it's about creating a world that feels believable and multifaceted.
Exactly.
Even if it reflects certain perspectives.
Right.
It's about prompting discussion, not dictating answers.
That's a great way to put it. Yeah.
What do you think?
I agree with that. Yeah. I think it's about giving players the space to form their own conclusions and not feeling like they're being told what to think.
Right. Exactly. And at the end of the day, players should feel like they have the agency to form their own opinions.
Right.
To agree or disagree with the messages being presented. Without feeling judged or ostracized.
Right, exactly.
All right, well, let's move on from the potentially controversial realm of politics to something a little less divisive, but equally important. Sound design.
Sound design, oh yeah.
We touched on this earlier when talking about impactful combat.
Right.
But I want to dive a little deeper. Because sound design is often overlooked. Yet it plays such a crucial role.
It does.
In shaping the overall experience of an open world RPG.
Absolutely. Sound design is like the invisible storyteller, the mood setter, the emotional manipulator.
Yeah. I like that.
Yeah, it can transport you to another world. Make your heart race with excitement. Or send shivers down your spine with fear.
It's like the difference between watching a movie with the sound on and watching it on mute. One is a passive experience. The other is visceral, immersive, engaging all your senses.
Absolutely.
And in Avowed, the sound design seems to be another one of those mixed bag elements.
Really? What have you been hearing about it?
Well, there's a lot of praise for the environmental sounds.
The
rustling of leaves, the chirping of birds,
the
distant howls of wolves.
No, that's cool.
It really creates that sense of place, of being surrounded by a living, breathing world.
That's so important in an open world game, right?
Absolutely.
You want to feel like you're actually exploring a real environment. Not just a sterile artificial landscape.
Right.
Sound can really make or break that sense of immersion.
But there are also some criticisms,
Oh.
particularly with the way voices are mixed.
Oh, really?
Some players are saying it sounds like the characters are speaking directly into their brains
Wow.
with no sense of distance or direction, which can be incredibly jarring.
Yeah.
Spatial audio,
Right.
which uses sound cues to indicate the location and distance of objects, is crucial for creating a realistic and immersive soundscape.
Yeah.
If it's not implemented properly,
Yeah.
it can be very disorienting.
Right.
One player even joked that they kept turning around,
Boy.
expecting an NPC to be standing right next to them,
Oh, wow.
only to find them way across the street.
That's funny.
It's like that moment when you think your phone is ringing,
Yeah.
but it's actually someone else's phone
Yeah.
on the other side of the room.
Yeah, I know that feeling.
Right.
Yeah.
That highlights how sound can impact, not just immersion,
Right.
but gameplay as well.
It does.
If you can't rely on audio cues to locate enemies,
Yeah.
allies,
Right.
or important objects,
Right.
it can lead to confusion and frustration.
It can be really annoying.
So it's not just about creating a beautiful soundscape.
Right.
It's about using sound strategically
Yeah.
to enhance the gameplay experience.
I like that.
Now, as much as I'm enjoying dissecting Avowed,
Yeah.
I think it's time to zoom out a bit
Okay.
and talk about the open world RPG genre as a whole.
Right.
What are some of the biggest challenges
Yeah.
developers face when creating these massive, sprawling experiences?
Well, one of the biggest hurdles is managing scope.
Yeah.
It's easy to get carried away.
Yeah.
With the idea of creating a vast, detailed world. But if you spread your resources too thin,
Yeah.
you risk ending up with a game that feels shallow and unfulfilling.
It's like trying to build a skyscraper with only enough bricks for a small house.
I like that.
You might have the ambition,
Uh-huh.
but the execution will inevitably fall short.
Exactly. So it's all about finding that balance
Right.
between ambition and feasibility. What are the core elements of your game?
Yeah.
What are the things you absolutely need to nail
Right.
in order to create a satisfying experience?
Yeah.
And then how can you focus your resources on those key areas
Right.
while still maintaining a sense of scope and scale?
So it's about picking your battles, right?
Yeah.
Deciding what's essential
Uh-huh.
and what can be trimmed down or even left out entirely.
Exactly. And that's a tough decision for developers to make
Yeah, it is.
because they often have these grand visions
Right.
for their games, but sometimes less is more. A smaller, more focused world can be far more immersive and engaging
Right.
than a massive, sprawling world
Yeah.
that feels empty and lifeless.
And speaking of feeling lifeless,
Yeah.
let's circle back to that whole cardboard cutout criticism we talked about earlier.
Oh, yeah.
What are some of the strategies developers can use to create more believable and engaging enemies?
Right.
Because, let's be honest, no one wants to spend hours battling foes
Right.
that feel like they were ripped straight out of a training dummy factory.
Oh, that's the worst.
Right.
Combat should be exciting,
Yeah.
challenging, and most importantly, it should feel impactful.
Right.
You want to feel like your actions have consequences,
Yeah.
like you're really making a difference in the fight.
Yeah, like you're actually hitting something
Yeah,
that has weight.
exactly. And that goes beyond just visual spectacle.
So we're back to that recipe analogy again, right?
We are, yeah.
You need a blend of visual, auditory,
Mm-hmm.
and tactile feedback
Yeah.
to create that sense of visceral impact.
That's right.
Visually, you want enemies to react realistically to being hit.
Yeah.
Maybe they stagger, flinch,
Yeah.
or even show visible signs of damage.
I like that.
It's like the difference between punching a punching bag
Yeah.
and punching your brick wall.
Ooh.
One gives, the other doesn't.
Yeah.
And you feel that difference in your bones.
Precisely.
Okay.
And then there's sound design.
Oh, yeah.
The clang of metal on metal,
Mm-hmm.
the grunts of exertion,
Yeah.
the cries of pain.
Right.
These audio cues can really sell the impact of a blow.
And then there's haptic feedback,
Oh, that's a good one.
which uses vibrations and rumbles
Yeah.
to simulate the feeling of physical contact.
Right.
Oh, yeah. Haptic feedback can be amazing when it's done well.
It can.
It's like you can actually feel the weight of your weapon,
Uh-huh.
the force of the impact.
Yeah, right. And when all of those elements are working in harmony,
Yeah.
it creates this incredibly visceral combat experience.
Mm.
You're not just watching your character fight.
Mm-hmm.
You're feeling it.
You're in it.
Yeah.
Now let's shift gears
Okay.
and talk about a topic that's near and dear to many RPG fans.
Right.
Character customization.
Oh, I love that.
Open world RPGs often pride themselves
Yeah.
on giving players a lot of freedom to create their own unique characters.
Right.
From their appearance to their skills to their moral compass.
That's right.
But how much freedom is too much freedom?
Good question.
Is there a point where too many options
Yeah.
can actually overwhelm players?
Right.
And detract from the experience?
It's a delicate balance for sure, because on one hand, you want players to feel like they have agency, like they can truly create a character that reflects their own play style and personality.
Right.
But on the other hand, too many options can lead to analysis paralysis.
Analysis paralysis, yeah.
Is that like when you stand in front of your closet for an hour?
Trying to decide what to wear.
Exactly.
Because I'm definitely guilty of that.
I think we all are. Yeah, it's that feeling of being overwhelmed by choices.
Right.
To the point where you just freeze up and can't make a decision.
Yeah.
And in a game that can be incredibly frustrating.
Oh, for sure.
You just want to get into the action.
Yeah.
Start exploring the world.
Right.
But you're stuck fiddling with sliders and menus, trying to create the perfect character.
So how do developers strike that balance?
That's a good question.
How do they give players enough freedom to express themselves without overwhelming them with choices?
Well, one approach is to offer a curated selection of options.
Okay.
Rather than just throwing everything at the player at once. Maybe you have a few pre-designed character archetypes to choose from.
Okay.
Each with their own unique strengths and weaknesses.
Right.
This can help players narrow down their choices.
Yeah.
And get a feel for the different play styles available.
It's like having a tasting menu at a fancy restaurant, right?
I like that.
You get to sample a few different dishes to see what you like.
Yeah.
Before committing to a full meal.
Exactly. And then as players become more familiar with the game, they can start to experiment with more advanced customization options, tweaking their skills, abilities, and appearance to create a character that truly reflects their individual playstyle.
So it's about giving players a starting point, a foundation to build upon, rather than just throwing them into the deep end of the character creation pool.
That's right.
And expecting them to swim.
And hoping for the best.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that can make a huge difference in terms of player experience.
It can.
You want players to feel empowered by their choices, not overwhelmed by them.
Absolutely.
Now, before we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I want to talk about something that often gets overlooked in discussions about open world RPGs. But it's something that's incredibly important to me personally.
What was that?
Exploration.
Exploration, yes.
What are some of the things that make a world truly fun and rewarding to explore?
It's the heart and soul of any good open world game.
Yeah.
It's that sense of wonder, of discovery,
Mm-hmm.
of venturing into the unknown and uncovering its secrets.
And there are so many ways to make a world feel truly explorable.
Yeah, there really are.
For me, it's all about those little moments of surprise and delight.
Oh, I love that.
Stumbling across a hidden cave filled with treasure.
Yeah.
Finding a breathtaking vista that overlooks the entire map.
Right.
Encountering a quirky character who tells you a fascinating story.
Those are my favorite.
Those are the moments that make exploration truly rewarding.
I completely agree.
Yeah.
It's about rewarding curiosity.
Yeah.
You want players to feel like they're constantly being rewarded for venturing off the beaten path, for taking the time to really explore every nook and cranny of the world.
So it's not just about having a big map.
Right.
It's about filling that map with interesting things to see and do.
That's right.
Things that make the player feel like they're actually discovering something new and unique.
Exactly. And it's about creating a sense of mystery.
Yeah.
Of intrigue. You want players to feel like there's always something more to uncover.
Right.
Always another secret waiting to be revealed. That's what keeps them coming back for more.
So it's about creating a world that feels alive.
Right.
That feels like it has a history.
Yeah.
That feels like it's constantly evolving and changing, even when the player isn't looking.
Precisely. And that's a tall order.
It is.
But when it's done well, it's truly magical.
Well said.
Thank you.
And I think that's a perfect note to end this part of our conversation on.
Okay.
A reminder that a truly great open world RPG isn't just about ticking boxes on a checklist of features and mechanics. It's about creating an experience that feels alive.
Right.
That feels immersive.
Yeah.
That makes the player feel like they're truly exploring a world that exists beyond the confines of the screen.
That's right.
It's funny, you know, we spent all this time talking about the mechanics of open world RPGs. The combat, the quests, the companions.
Right.
But what really sticks with me after all of this is that feeling of stepping into another world.
I know, it's so powerful.
It's like you said earlier, that sense of wonder and discovery.
Yeah.
That's what keeps me coming back to these games, even when they frustrate me.
It's that escape, right? The chance to leave behind the everyday and immerse yourself in a world that feels both familiar and completely alien.
Yeah.
You get to be someone else, make choices that have real consequences.
Right.
And maybe even learn a little something about yourself along the way.
Exactly. And I think that's why it's so important for these worlds to feel believable, even when they're filled with magic and dragons and talking squirrels.
Right. You need that internal consistency.
If the world feels consistent, if it follows its own internal logic, it just draws you in deeper.
Consistency is key.
Yeah.
It's like, imagine you're watching a movie and a character suddenly starts flying without any explanation.
Right.
It would completely shatter the illusion, right?
Yeah, you'd be like, wait, what?
The same thing happens in games.
Right.
If the rules of the world aren't clear, if things happen randomly without any rhyme or reason, it breaks that sense of immersion.
And that brings us back to Avowed.
Okay.
Because one of the recurring criticisms we've seen is that the world feels a bit disjointed.
Okay.
Like there are these moments of brilliance, these areas that are incredibly detailed and immersive.
Yeah.
But then you stumble across something that just feels off.
Right.
Maybe it's a quest that doesn't make sense, a character that acts out of character, or a piece of environmental storytelling that contradicts something you learned earlier.
Those inconsistencies can be really jarring.
They can.
It's like finding a modern-day coffee cup on the set of a historical drama.
Yeah, totally.
It just pulls you out of the experience, and it makes you wonder, what else did they miss?
Right, right.
What other details were overlooked?
And that loss of trust can be hard to regain.
It can.
Once you start noticing those cracks in the facade, it's hard to fully immerse yourself in the world again.
It is.
So what's the solution?
Good question.
How do developers avoid those inconsistencies? And create a world that feels truly cohesive and believable?
It comes down to attention to detail.
Okay.
Rigorous testing and a lot of collaboration. You need writers, designers, artists, programmers, all working together to ensure that every element of the game, from the smallest prop to the grandest quest line, is consistent with the overall vision of the world.
So it's like building a house, right?
I like that.
You need a solid foundation, strong walls, and a roof that doesn't leak.
Right.
If one piece is weak, the whole structure is compromised.
Exactly, and that's why it's so important for developers to play test their games extensively, not just to catch bugs, but to make sure that the world feels consistent and believable from the player's perspective.
Right, because ultimately it's the players who are the judges. Of whether a world feels truly immersive or not.
Right.
They're the ones who will spend hours exploring every nook and cranny, uncovering those inconsistencies, and either praising or criticizing the developers for their attention to detail.
And that feedback is invaluable.
It is.
Developers should be actively listening to players, taking their criticisms to heart, and using that feedback to improve their games.
Because at the end of the day, creating a truly immersive open world RPG is a collaborative effort.
It is.
It's a partnership between the developers who build the world and the players who inhabit it.
And when that partnership works, when both sides are invested in creating a believable and engaging experience, the results can be truly magical.
Speaking of magic, I want to touch on one more topic before we wrap up this campfire chat. The sense of wonder.
The sense of wonder,
What are some of the things that developers can do to evoke that feeling of awe and amazement in players, especially in a genre that's often focused on combat and quests and loot?
It's about creating moments that transcend the mechanic of the game. Moments that tap into something deeper. Something more primal. Maybe it's that first time you step out of a dark forest and see a vast, sprawling city bathed in the golden light of sunset.
Oh, I love that.
Or maybe it's that moment when you finally reach the summit of a mountain after hours of climbing, and you're rewarded with a breathtaking panoramic view of the entire world.
Or maybe it's that time you stumble across a hidden grove. filled with bioluminescent flowers.
Oh, wow.
And you just stand there mesmerized by their otherworldly beauty.
Exactly. It's about creating those moments that make you stop and say, wow, this is incredible.
Right.
Moments that stay with you long after you've turned off the game.
And those moments don't have to be grand or epic.
Right.
Sometimes it's the smallest details that can evoke the greatest sense of wonder.
Yeah.
Like imagine you're exploring a dusty old library.
Okay.
And you come across a book that's been left open. And as you lean in to read it,
yeah,
a tiny moth flutters out from between the pages.
Oh, that's beautiful.
It's a small detail.
Yeah.
But it adds a touch of life, a hint of magic to the world.
It's those little touches that make a world feel real, that make it feel like it exists beyond the confines of the game. And that's what makes exploration so rewarding.
Right.
You're not just ticking off locations on a map. You're experiencing a world that feels alive and full of surprises.
Well, I think we've covered just about everything we can possibly cover in one campfire chat.
I think so.
We've talked about the highs and lows of Avowed.
We did.
We've dissected the mechanics of open world RPGs.
Yeah.
And we've pondered the deeper meaning of immersion and the importance of creating worlds that feel truly believable.
It's been a fascinating journey, hasn't it?
It has.
And I think the biggest takeaway for me is that the open world RPG genre is still evolving. There's so much potential for innovation, for pushing the boundaries of what's possible in interactive storytelling.
I completely agree. And as we've seen, there's always room for improvement.
There is.
Developers are constantly experimenting with new ideas, new ways to engage players, new ways to create worlds that feel truly alive and immersive.
And as players, we have a role to play in that evolution as well.
Yeah, we do.
By sharing our feedback, by voicing our opinions,
Yeah.
by demanding more from the games we play.
Right.
They can help shape the future of the genre.
So to all you open world RPG fans out there, keep exploring.
Be the questioning.
Keep demanding more.
And who knows?
And who knows?
Maybe someday we'll all be gathered around a virtual campfire.
Yeah.
Sharing stories about the most immersive, the most engaging, the most wonder-filled open world RPGs ever created.
Until then, happy adventuring.
Happy adventuring.
And thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
It was my pleasure.
We'll see you next time.
Yeah.
For another exploration into the fascinating world of...
All right.
Well, who knows?
Yeah, who knows?
It's part of the fun, isn't it?
It is.
The adventure never truly ends.
That's